Come to order. We'd like to welcome our guests to the Ouachita Parish School Board meeting. Come any time that your schedule would allow. Ms. Mickus, will you call roll, please?
Mr. Cummings?
Here.
Ms. May?
Here.
Mr. Wagner?
Here.
Mr. Hicks?
Here.
Mr. McCoy?
Here.
Mr. Craig?
Here.
Mr. Manley?
Here.
Let's stand, please, for the pledge. Be done by Board Member Scotty Wagner.
Attention, salute, pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our invocation be done by Board Member Greg Manley.
Please pray with me. Our gracious Heavenly Father, just how awesome and loving and merciful God you are, Heavenly Father. And we just come before you humbly and thankful for all the blessings you give us each and every day. And we're just thankful for the opportunity we have to live in this country, Heavenly Father, and the freedoms that we have. And most of all, we're thankful for the opportunity we have to serve on the school board. And we just ask for your guidance and direction today and wisdom as we make decisions that impact our children and our employees throughout the Ouachita Parish school system, Heavenly Father. We just give you the praise and the glory for that ability and that knowledge and your guidance in decisions that we make. And most of all, we pray for each student, Heavenly Father, and each employee that you will just put your protective hand over them as we get ready to enter this new school year, and just put your comforting hand and safety over all them as we get ready to enter our new school year, Heavenly Father. Thank you so much for our salvation, the price Jesus paid on the cross. And all this we pray in his precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Board, moving down to agenda, we need to approve the agenda, but we need to add item number 2, so we need to amend the agenda to add item number 2.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve the full agenda.
Also move we approve the full agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving right down to business, Dr. Coker.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. We are going to, one of the first things on our item today is to look at a revision of the 2020-2021 school calendar. And so we mailed this out to you, and hopefully I was able to get the information in your hands so that you could look at it and see what we were going to change to, or what we're recommending that we change to as we begin this new school year. And so a couple of things that you need to be aware of is that teachers are contracted for 182 days a year. And so we had to make sure that as we go through the school calendar that we have 182 days that they're contracted for. Also, for our students are required to go a certain number of minutes a year. And so we are adding 20 minutes to the minimum number of minutes that we had this past year, which was 380. And so the minimum number of minutes for this school year will be 400 minutes. And that will put us at the number of minutes that is required by the State Department for our students to be able to go through. And in doing this, it's not going to alter the calendar a whole lot as far as what our students are going to be looking at as far as ending the school year. It will alter it somewhat as we look at the beginning of the school year. And so if you will look at the month of August, and I think that Eileen put in your package just the full calendar of what we're proposing. On the old schedule, teachers were actually scheduled to come back on the 5th, Wednesday the 5th. Well, now they are scheduled to come back on the 6th. All right, so we're going to have district in-services on the 6th, the 7th, and the 10th of August. You're also going to be noticing that there's quite a bit of distance between when we would be asking our students to be coming back to school. So right now, we are looking at the students returning. Instead of returning on the 12th, 13th, and 14th, we're going to be pushing them back about 2 weeks. Students would be returning to school on August 26th, 27th, and 28th. These would be 3 half-day schedules where kids would be coming in, depending on the school, either by their last name, but they would be coming one of those 3 days for the registration process. On August the 31st would be the first full day of school for all of our students, and that's the day that we would be starting full-time with our brick and mortar, and we are hoping that we will have our VIP ready to begin on that same day. So that's the major changes for August. The days from the 11th of August through the 21st of August, we're going to be having quite a bit of professional development, again, with our teachers and our employees, to make sure that they do understand how to utilize Google Classroom and Google Meet. So we'll continue to be training on those. During the course of this time, we're going to be offering, and we're going to actually have a survey that's going to be put out there for the students and parents who have signed up for the virtual instruction program, that we're going to have orientation set up. So if you did your registration for our VIP program, you are in the mix of moving forward to the next step. That next step is attending a mandatory orientation so that you will know exactly, and your students will know exactly what this virtual instructional program is going to be. It's going to be about an hour and a half. We're looking at putting a message and a call out or an email out to all of those who have registered for this. And I will tell you, we have had very close to 4,500 registrations for the virtual program. Okay, just because you're registered doesn't mean you're in it yet. You've still got to attend the mandatory orientation so that you will know all of the ins and outs of what this is going to be requiring. And so that's going to be coming up the week of the 10th or the 11th of August, probably through the 14th. So we are going to be we have a lot of information to get out in a very short time, but we'll be doing the very best that we can. After the meeting today, I'll end up having a director's meeting at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Tomorrow, I have principals meetings scheduled from 8 until 10 for elementary and from 1 until 3 for our middle and high school. And so they will be getting all of the information that we're actually putting out today with more specifics on it beginning tomorrow. All right, the only thing that we changed in September on the calendar is that we had a professional development day scheduled for September the 28th. We have decided that because we're having all of the front-loaded PD days, that day would come off, and that would be a normal teaching school day. October, nothing changed on the calendar. November, nothing changed on the calendar. December is the same, as is January, February, March, and April. And then in May, instead of us getting out that 20th and 21st of May, our students' last day will now be the 24th, and our teachers' last day will be the 26th. And so the goal was to try to still stay as normal as possible at the end of the school year, and hopefully being able to finish the year by Memorial Day. In this calendar, we have not built in weather days. And the reason that we've not built in weather days this year is because we are hoping and praying that by the time that we get into any type of inclement weather, which could be snow or sleet or ice or what have you, that we will have our Chromebooks in, some 6,600, and we will be able to put these Chromebooks into the hands of every student that we have in our district, in addition to the Chromes that we have right now. And so if there is a weather day in December, January, February, it is very possible that those students could have their Chromebooks at home, and they could actually continue with whatever lesson would have been with that teacher. The teachers would be doing the online distance learning. Our virtual students would still be doing their virtual lessons as if they were going through the process anyway. And so if there's any good or plus to that, the plus is that we don't have to add the extra days. In fact, we are going to be prepared to do online distance learning with our traditional kids and our VIP learning with our virtual students. And so that is what our calendar is going to, the proposed calendar is going to look like. I will tell you that Dr. Brumley, our new state superintendent, had asked for every district to submit a calendar just to kind of see if there were any changes in it. And I would say that the majority of the districts in the state have probably altered or changed their calendars somewhat. Some did it very minorly, some did it majorly, where very few, from what I can tell thus far, are starting after Labor Day or even starting in September, but there are a few that's doing that. You know, and again, we took into consideration the safety, the fact that we have all of the planning to do with the scheduling of our VIP teachers that's actually going to be teaching these classes virtually, as well as how many students we're going to actually have in our brick and mortar. So, you know, I know that I've seen a lot of our parents say, well, we don't know enough yet. That's because everything has changed from day to day. Things change on the COVID and what you do, the protocols with what goes on within the pandemic that we have that's going on. And so we are certainly trying to stay abreast and updated on everything that is coming down from the state, from the CDC, from the Public Health Department, and all of that is put into our considerations as we're trying to adjust and to get our kids back into school. But if you have any questions at this time, Board, I'd be glad to answer them on the calendar.
Dr. Coker, you mentioned that the required 400 minutes for each student a day was what the state requires. Since that's 400 minutes, will we be adding any minutes to the day at each school, or the principals be doing that, or how's that gonna work?
The minimum minutes that we've had, Ken, you may help me on this because you're the one who collects all those. If you want to come up here, you can address that.
I know, 'cause a lot of the parents and students are gonna know how many minutes a day is they gonna add to their schedule.
The state requires 65,730 minutes per day. And so, a year. And so we have currently the minimum minutes that we require schools to go on a regular school year is 380. And so we have some schools, because we stagger for transportation and different things like that, we have schools that go anywhere from 380 minutes to 410 minutes in a normal school year. So it's going to vary by school as into how many minutes they're going to have to add since we're reducing the number of days that the students go.
So the principal will be making that decision and communicating that to the
Correct.
students
That's
and the
correct.
parents.
And we're letting our principals have the flexibility because normally we work within the feeder system. If there are schools that are sharing school buses or what have you, then the feeder system has to also be a part of the scheduling on that. And so if they want to add them at the beginning of the day, that's fine. If they want to tack them on to the end, that's fine also. I believe that, Ken, if I remember correctly, we have very few schools that was actually running the minimum number. So if, let's just say, West Monroe High School had 395 minutes in their regular school day, they would only be adding 5 minutes. So we're just moving that minimum number, and most of our schools were doing well over the minimum number. So when I say 20 minutes, it's 20 minutes from the minimum from last year to where we're going this year. But in reality, most of our schools will not be adding those types of minutes.
And the state requirement 63,720, it just hit me. So.
And that's instructional minutes.
That is correct.
Right.
We're not supposed to include bell in between classes, lunch, and different things like that.
Okay.
So our greatest anticipation is that most schools will start slightly before 8 o'clock in some instances. And then some will get out a little bit after 3 o'clock for the most part.
And I know that Mr. Geis has been working with our transportation department, with Mr. Boyd, and with the feeder schools this past week. And y'all may want to address what's come out of the meetings with our feeder system.
The start and end time will be just like Mr. Monroe said, it will vary based on the feeder. The feeder principals, we met with them as feeder groups last week, and they started the planning of altering their schedule to get to the 400 minimum. A lot of them may not have to add any time, some of them just a few minutes. But but they work together, so especially if they share buses, so they can stagger those times. We're also asking our principals to stagger their times, because Dr. Coker is asking parents to bring their kids and pick them up where possible.
Yes.
So we're trying to create some space for parents who have kids at multiple campuses, so that will accommodate them. So to answer your question, Reverend McCoy, it's gonna depend by the schools, and the feeder principals started last week, and they're continuing to work together to make sure their times. So some may start at, we have some that the first bell rang at 7:35 last year.
That's
up
correct,
to close
right.
to 8. So that is still, the principal has that autonomy to make that decision with the other principals.
Thank you.
Any other questions that you might have on the calendar? We are pretty much in line with what several of them around us are going to be doing, especially the larger districts. I know that I've spoken with Dr. Vadrine in Monroe City, and their schedule is very similar to what ours is. It may be a day or two off as far as when their employees come back, but I believe that they are set for the 26th also for their students to come back. Okay.
I'll just say this, Mr. President. I want to just commend the staff. I know you all are working fastidiously trying to put all this together. And speaking with Todd Geist today, having to try to make everything work with the over 4,000 kids in the virtual program probably. So I just want to commend y'all. I know that you're on vacation and working while you're on vacation.
Blessed to have great people that's certainly taking the consideration of our students in, to the very best that we can.
Yes.
Thank you, Reverend McCoy.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the revised classroom,
So moved.
school calendar year, I'm sorry.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving down to item number 2, consider approval of the revised classroom teacher job description.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Board, just continue the effort we're making to keep our personnel manual updated with our current job descriptions. Hammonds and Seals made a recommendation to us to add some language to our teacher job descriptions right now. And basically it goes just some language to address virtual instruction that has been brought about by the pandemic that we're currently under. You received a highlighted copy of this. They're very minor changes. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I would ask approval of this job description.
I make a motion to approve the job description.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board?
4,500 students, based on my calculations, around 24% of our total student body. Is that right, Doc?
Good calculation, about 23% right.
That's a lot more than I had
Us
originally
too.
anticipated myself.
But we're finding out also, Greg, that even districts the same size, theirs is around 30 to 35, and even some 40%.
Wow.
I'm just glad we was able to accommodate those students and keep them in our system.
Any more discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Guys. Moving down to item number 3. Consider approval of the contract with Allen Green and Williamson, LLP, CPAS, for the financial audit and agreed upon procedures. Ms. Regina Mickles.
I believe each of you received a copy of the contract that we are requesting for approval in your packets that was sent out at the end of last week. This is just your normal contract for the financial audit of the school system. There is a slight increase to the cost as there have been additional costs since the last time these contracts were approved, which was 4 years ago, I believe. So you can imagine over that 4-year period, there's going to be some increase in cost. So that is addressed in the contract. Other than that, it is just a standard auditing contract with agreed upon procedures as we are required to do, and the board contract with the auditing firm. Anyone have any questions?
These are just annual.
Yes, sir. This is just our normal annual financial audit. The contract that was in place was a 3-year contract with a 1-year extension. Given that this is a brand-new contract, that's why it's coming before the board.
Oh, and this would just be for just 1 year. Am I correct?
Well, actually, this is a new contract, and it is a 2-year contract with, apologies, it's a 2-year contract with an option for an extension.
I see it, thank you. To renew June 30th, 2022.
Right.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the contract with Allen Green and Williamson.
Also move that we approve the contract with Allen Green and Williamson.
Second.
Now, any discussion from the audience? On the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving down to item number 4, Ouachita Parish School Board Chromebook Responsibility Use Policy, Mr. Ken Monroe.
Afternoon, Board. I won't read the policy to you, but if I'm here in case you have any questions about it.
When's this policy gonna go into effect, Ken?
Immediately. As soon
Immediately.
as y'all, if you approve it, we will go ahead and start having our students and parents sign this agreement.
And the Chromebooks will be here in December?
Yes, sir. We currently have over 14,000 in inventory, so that's the purpose or the reason why we're going ahead and doing this now.
There is
Every cost like $300 or something like that?
$267.
There is a maximum on the insurance coverage per family, I see, $60.
That's correct.
Okay. So it's $20 per device.
And that's correct, up to, for 3 children, which is the $60.
Is there any
This will
deductible?
cover damage and for repair, but it will not cover lost or stolen devices. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use that money to purchase parts, and we're gonna use our staff to repair the devices. And so that's what that $20 insurance is. It allows a parent to just pay that $20, and then that way they don't have to worry about any repair that might have to occur. And we will look and see to make sure, and it states that in here, is that we understand things happen to Chromebooks that are not intentional, and we would not charge someone for that. But there are things, keys, they like to pop the keys off of the Chromebooks. They will put a pencil in between the keyboard and then close the lid, and it breaks the screen. The screen's the number one or most expensive thing to repair. Right now, a screen will cost about $153 out of the $267 that a new one costs. So, that's one of the big things. But if it's stolen, if you look in it, it says if it's lost or stolen, they have to file a police report, and that way we can have that saying that it was lost. If a Chromebook is lost or stolen, I have the ability to go in and I can brick the Chromebook more or less, and what it does is no matter where they're at, when they open the screen, they power it on, it will say, this is the property of the Ouachita Parish School System. You need to return it to, and it gives the address. So even if they take it, they're not going to be able to do anything with it.
One of the questions I've received is the hotspots in the new ones.
We are trying to work with the vendors right now. The hotspot is not in the Chromebook. It is a separate device.
That was the question.
And I'm working with Verizon and AT&T to try to get some in as quick as possible. Again, that's one of those things, there's so many that have been ordered, they're back ordered from those companies. So we can see how they work, because in West Ouachita, Verizon's gonna work better than AT&T in some places. And then in other areas over in East Ouachita, AT&T works better than Verizon. So we're gonna have to do a survey, and we're gonna have to send a technician out to see which one works better, at that point.
Will there be any cost to those hotspots? To the,
Verizon's is $80 for the hotspot, and then $10 a month for the data service with unlimited. AT&T, this is a state contract price. AT&T's, theirs was $100 for the access point and $20 per month for the data service, but I think they've just restructured their contract and brought the pricing down, and I'm not sure exactly what that is.
okay. Who pays that contract? price?
We would pay that.
Okay.
And that was,
So it won't be no cost to this,
that's correct.
Okay.
And that was part of the CARES Act money that we
Right.
received, is going towards that.
Ken, what grades is this gonna be? I know where our goal is to put a Chromebook in every student's hands by the end of December. What grades will that be?
Pre-K through 12.
Okay.
I see the damage coverage is recommended. What's going to happen if they don't participate?
They'll be
Repair
Uh,
themselves?
Then they have to pay for the repair of the device.
Okay.
And we are going to prepare I guess, a menu of what things cost so they know ahead of time. So when they get it, they'll know to replace a key on the keyboard cost X dollars, to replace the screen, it costs X dollars. And that way, we're not just making up prices. They'll know ahead of time what the price is to repair a damaged product.
$20 would be a lot better
Oh, yeah.
route,
Ken,
repairing yourself.
a couple of things, real quickly. One instance, and I agree, you said repeatedly leaving a Chromebook at home may result in a referral to administration as possible disciplinary action. That would be the school administration?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And the reason for that the reason that's in there is because as we gear towards teaching for virtual, for the potential of virtual, they're gonna use that device daily. And if they keep leaving it at home, they're not gonna be able to participate in the classroom.
I agree. I agree with that. Now, have we defined disciplinary action?
We have not.
So it's
And that
broad.
would be up to the school to do.
Or will we give them some guidance? I think that might be advisable so that everybody won't be doing something different. So somebody said, well, you know, at West Monroe, they just did this. Oh, but at Ouachita, they're doing this. And so some may operate at the extreme, some may operate less extreme.
And I'm not sure exactly how the discipline is handled now, if they get recommendations for us, or if each school just does their own discipline.
I don't either. I know we have a former principal here, like if a student left consistently left their textbook or basal, is there some type of a disciplinary action that we used? I don't remember.
Yeah, and Mr. Geis, you can hit me on this, since you were high school also. We usually treated, like if they left their textbooks after a while. I mean,
Yes.
you know, after a couple times, you kind of give them a little leeway, but then after that, it was treated kind of like tardies, okay? Where you would, first tardy, you know, you have like 1 hour detention and so forth. And of course, all this time, the parent's informed of what's going on. They need they need the book in class.
Right.
If you don't have your book, if you're not in class, well then, you're not learning. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So, yeah. So I don't know, Mr. Geis, I don't know if you've spoken with some of the high school.
Similar type of
And,
gradual step up.
That's how you,
Hopefully
Yeah.
the parents
You-
working with the school will
you know we're gonna have to fight. That's gonna be a battle. And I think it's really good to have it in there. I just thought maybe we'd be a little more definitive in terms of that. And the second thing was, notice that in the policy you said that no parent will be responsible for paying more than $60 for the coverage of the Chromebook. That's pretty.
If they have 4 students, then they'll pay the $60 total.
Okay. Thank you.
I really like this. I think this is an excellent policy. I think, and after having, read over it and everything, I love the contract. It always gives you something a backup. You know, this is what you signed and so forth, so I like it.
Thank you.
I think it's self-explanatory, I really do. It's really good.
And I do too, and I
Yeah.
don't think it's punitive in any fashion, I think, but it's better to know exactly up front, so that when parents start calling or
Right.
start griping or complaining, then, we can say, no, you knew in advance. You have the information before you, you have the contract before you. And like I said, my only concern was that, if we could just be a little bit more definitive about that disciplinary action, so that
Right. It's all about right. It's all about keeping the parents informed.
Yes.
And I think based on this, I think it's gonna be from day one, and I think it'll be good.
yes.
Jim?
And I would say that the, any type of discipline that would be involved would probably be in the handbooks under this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we gotta,
It should be covered.
that's another thing that we have to,
Every school has their own handbook. They don't all go beyond, before the boards to pass them or whatever, but they do, as they mentioned, tardies and, just minor infractions and stuff like that. What are the steps? Well, this very well, it's the first time we've ever done a Chromebook use policy as far as a contract and all that. And so the handbooks are being readjusted to include a lot of things that have not normally been in them. And I think you make a good point on the fact that what do you do if they don't have it?
yeah.
If they don't, because this is gonna be a huge learning tool for them now.
Yes, and, yes.
Now, as far as consistency, in the past, the high school principals would get together, review their handbooks, and at that point, once the handbooks were revised and we tried to stay on the same page, it was sent before the director of secondary, the supervisor here in the parish, and they peruse it, and then,
So
same thing with middle school.
what you're saying is that those administrators then will become a little more stringent, they'll become a little more definitive in terms of, I just want to sort of cut it
Sure.
up at the pass so that,
Sure.
when they start calling, if they start calling, then I can say, well, no, we have consistency all across the board. We have consistency all
Right.
over the district.
And our handbooks are online now. If I'm not mistaken, this year, all of our schools have their handbooks online, so anyone can go out there and see it.
Commendable.
Will they have extra ones on site? If they
We
need?
are currently, just because of the amount that we have, our plan is to have 5 extra Chromebooks on site. And I'm gonna have someone dedicated, a technician, is gonna be dedicated in making sure that we always have 5. So if you have a lot of students that leave the school, then we'll pick up the extras that are above 5 and then take them to the ones that have less than 5.
Will
So
the
it's
school be
a,
able to buy at the same price if they wanted to spend some of their own money?
that's
on it?
correct. That's correct.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve Chromebook responsibility use policy?
Go ahead.
I so move that we approve the Chromebook responsible use policy.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? Any more discussion from the board?
Trying to get out of here, aren't you?
All in favor, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes. Board, you'll have an evaluation of the bids or permission to bids, so our next meeting is August the 11th at 12 o'clock. Dr. Copeland?
Thank you, Mr. Higgs. Prior to the meeting, we did have some questions that had been submitted to us, I think through our YouTube. And so, Ms. Baker, a lot of these are going to be on safety concerns that are coming up. So if you would come up, I'll read the questions. These are presented through the Ouachita Association of Educators. And so I'm going to read the question, and Ms. Baker will give you an answer for what has been submitted thus far. If someone in the school community tests positive for COVID-19, what will be the next required steps? Will schools need to be closed for deep cleaning? What will be the requirements? What will the requirements be for contact tracing and testing? How long will staff or students need to quarantine? We could pretty much write a book on this right now. She's going to give you,
That would be a mouthful, yes.
she's going to give you the cliff version of some of these answers.
Of course, everything we're doing is going closely hand in hand with CDC guidance and the Office of Public Health. The lady I talked to at Public Health, I have her cell phone. I call her night and day, weekends. So we get our information pretty closely from them. we'll follow the guidance about isolation or quarantine if somebody tests positive. We'll determine, who were close contacts to see if they need to quarantine. Deep cleaning, we'll follow the guidance of what CDC tells us to do. You won't have to deep clean the entire building if the positive was in one classroom. So it has to be looked at on an individual basis. Contact tracing, our role in that will be when we have these cohorts who stay within a static group, knowing who's sitting close to that positive case and being able to say, these are the people who were close contact because they were within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, and then notifying them. I think if any of you have had any people doing different things in sports or extracurricular or even in this building over the summer, you've seen different messaging that we've sent out. I'm a big proponent of open lines of communication. I would rather know that somebody was a positive case or a exposure so that as an individual I can make my best informed decisions. Now, we won't use people's names because, of course, that's against HIPAA. So, our notifications are generic. This is what's happened. We're notifying you because you were in this classroom. If you're a close contact, then that will come more from the health department. So, anyway, like I say, there's a lot that can go into that, and it would take half the day to answer that one.
Marcia, if a principal has a student that tests positive, will they be working with you on guidance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We started from the beginning, rather than the health department get calls from 37 different principals to try to funnel it through me to go to the health department, so it's a little less overwhelming.
And Jeff Toms is our regional director in Region 8 for the Public Health Department. And we actually have a Region 8 Superintendent's conference call with him and his team every Thursday. So things change every week. I was on vacation last week and I came back today and I'm going, when did they change that? Well, they changed it this past week. And so there are things that are changing even as we get into this. And that's one of the reasons that we do stay updated and we stay very current with our public health department as to protocol and the safety measures and things that we'll be taking. Okay, question number 2, Ms. Baker. If a school building or school district has a COVID-19 positive case, how long will a closure be to ensure there's no super spread to the community?
Well, current guidance tells you, if you look at public health and CDC, that you don't just close a whole school because you have a positive case. You look at the proximity of the people around that positive case and you make your decisions based on close contact and exposure. You don't close a whole school.
Right, and that's pretty much been from the very beginning that, now if that school became a hot spot where we had multiple cases, then it's very possible that we would do that in conjunction with the Public Health Department. Number 3, what will be the COVID-19 testing protocols for students, staff, visitors, et cetera?
Well, I took that to mean real testing, which we won't be doing at the school sites. Now, we will be doing screening. Visitors will have some screening documents that they have to certify to before they come in a building. We're going to try to limit visitation in buildings, the temperature screenings on a daily basis, but we will not do actual COVID testing. Now, there is still some discussion about whether our school health centers will do that, but I don't think that's been decided at this point.
Okay, next question. What is some trauma-informed strategies the district will use for students, teachers, and other staff members? Will teachers receive training at each school building site or district-wide training?
Trauma-informed strategies are more on the forefront in just recent years, probably. Maybe back from when you and I were counselors even, it's evolved. LDOE has added a piece to our Edgenuity platform, which deals with social emotional learning, COVID response, mental health awareness, and it's free to our district from grades 6 through 12. And so I'm encouraging our middle and high school people to log on to that piece. We can use that through our counselors, our PE classes, which may not be able to do as many things as they used to could do. We can utilize that information. Our pupil appraisal people, our psychologists, our counselors, all of those people are resources we can use to address trauma-informed strategies.
Okay, thank you. Number 5, the homeroom teacher can check temperatures before students enter their classes. Will bus monitors be hired to assist in temperature checks and sanitizing the buses?
Not sure we could find any more bus monitors to hire at this point. We don't have any plans at this point to hire any more bus monitors.
Temperatures will actually be checked in homeroom classes and not on buses. And this is coming straight to us from CDC as well as the Department of Education. Number 6, instead of students changing classes, wouldn't it be safer for teachers to change classes?
You know, that's discussed in different meetings I've been in, and I think the principals have the autonomy to kind of make that decision within their school setting. It's different for middle and elementary and high, so each school has to kind of look and see what would work best for them.
Okay, and we are leaving that up to our principals. And if you remember, our elementary principals, we are having static groups for them, which means the same group of kids should be together from the time they enter that homeroom class until they exit to either ride the buses home or parents pick them up.
That would not even be possible in high school.
No, it is
Well,
not.
And I would say your transition times for your middle and high, you know, keep in mind the close contact rule is within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. Well, if your transition period is 4 minutes to the next class, you shouldn't be close to somebody for 15 minutes. So keep that in mind when you're concerned about transitioning.
Question number, I'm sorry.
Excuse me,
Go ahead.
but the students will be encouraged to wear a mask
Oh, yes,
even while they're exchanging classes?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Is that the guidance, though? Usually to be exposed, you have to be within 6 feet for 15 minutes?
That's considered a close contact, within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes.
Is that according to CDC?
Okay. Number 7, instead of just teaching the guidebook, which is used in our English language arts curriculum, will teachers be able to teach and culturally engage students and assist them with adjusting to the culture, climate, and extra mental health?
I'm not a curriculum guru, but we're going to teach the curriculum. That's what we're going to do. The piece I mentioned before where we can work on social emotional learning and mental health will be utilized in those cases.
Okay. Number 8, will teachers receive much-needed training on COVID-19 best practices and PPE use?
We're meeting with administrators tomorrow to give them some basic foundational things, and they can certainly share what I give with them down to their staffs. PPE is kind of a big term. The guidance is not such that it's recommended for teachers, local people in the school setting to necessarily use the hardcore, so to speak, PPE. Cloth masks are the recommendation for that setting.
And the last question, the epidemiologist suggested that schools start with the younger children since they are more likely to have learning lags.
And that's our intent. Our elementary students would go to school every day. That's the intent of the way we have our plan set up.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Baker. And one other thing I'd like to, I don't know how many people we have listening through YouTube today or whatever, but if we have any of our parents out there that are, that have registered their children for the VIP program, I just want to make sure that they understand that that is the first step. The second step is, and we will be getting information to you this week, that you need to be able to sign up for an orientation meeting that we're going to be having. And when you have this many folks that have signed up, we're going to be starting meetings from it's going to take about an hour and a half per meeting, and we're going to be using some of our larger auditoriums to be able to house up to 50 people at a time within these auditorium settings, certainly social distancing and certainly requiring and requesting that you wear a mask to these meetings. But for those parents who have signed up, be looking for either an email, a phone call, or something that will be coming to you to give you a chance to sign up for your orientation. For those students who are not able, because this was part of the mandatory part, for those who are not able to attend the orientation, these students would be then registered in their regular traditional brick and mortar schools. And so you've made it through the first step. This will be our second step. I know that Mr. Geis has been working for a week on what is it going to look like as far as scheduling. And I've had, several parents say, well, I didn't meet the registration deadline. To that, we have got to start staffing these, and we can't just flip-flop back and forth. And so that is the reason that we had to cut the deadline off. And I hate it for any parents that were not able to get their children in that. Right now, they had 10 days to be able to register. And so we are in the process of staffing. Matter of fact, met this morning at 7:30 for an hour and a half, just as the initial staffing part. And so that's what we'll be doing over the next week in preparing for our orientations that will be coming up. And so there's a help desk for these parents. If you want to go online and look at that, then you certainly are welcome to call and ask whatever questions you might have. But I think you'll have a lot of your questions answered once you make it to the orientation. And at the orientation, you'll also be filling out, if you've not done so already, a contract to enter into the VIP program. So, Board, if you have any questions about that, I'll do my best to try to answer those.
I do have one question back to probably Ms. Baker to address, but I've had this question asked me multiple times in the last 2 weeks. Is there any service that we have that maybe the nurse's office, or children come in sick and toilet paper, face mask, whatever that may be sick? We have a company that handles that as a biohazard that takes care of that. Maybe
That is a Ms. Baker question. It's a very good question.
Maybe takes care of our AEDs also. I've been asked this question multiple times.
The nurses do have access to biohazard bags. Now, I specifically asked that in our health department call last week. Was that a requirement for disposing of whatever the nurses may need to dispose of? And they said only if it's a known COVID case. So my thought is the nurse is never going to know that in the school setting, because hopefully if it's a known COVID case, the student's still at home. But if it's a known COVID case, then the materials from whatever, tissues, whatever, would need to go into a biohazard bag. But other than that, no.
Come in sick, mother knows in nurse's office, 2 days later, they tested positive.
But that's the CDC guidance. It says that it can be disposed of in normal trash, because I specifically asked that question.
And I've had nurses already call on face masks and gowns and everything you can think of in case of testing the students when they come in. And I keep telling them they're not going to test the students when they come in on room feature. And if they need face shields, then I'll order face shields for them. I've already ordered masks and gloves for every nurse, just for the nurses, not for the school. And they'll be handed out on the 6th at our in-service day. And if they need shields, and we determine they need shields, I'll buy shields for every one of the nurses. Our nurses fund.
Any more discussion? I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.